Welcome to We Need to Talk, where I help start the dialogue about issues facing our community. On today's show, we're talking about senior care. What do we need to talk about with respect to senior care? Well, it's a fact of life that we're all getting older, and with that comes a few, let's say, challenges that we need to deal with. The definition of senior varies. Is it when you're retired, when you're able to get those special discounts, or when you feel like a senior some days? Don't get me wrong, I know people are working longer and are more active now than ever before. Being a senior now doesn't look like it did 20 years ago. Seniors are very engaged and socially connected. We want our parents to live long, healthy, and fulfilling lives. But what happens if that's just not your reality? It takes a family working together to care for an aging parent. How many of you have prepared yourselves and your family for when the time comes that you might need some help? I'm happy to say today we've got two guests. They're going to help us have that conversation. We have Heather Campbell here from the Winfield, and we have Tina Desi from T&E Health Pros. Thank you both so much for being here. I thought maybe we could start today by you telling viewers a little about your organizations and what you do there. So maybe you could start, Tina.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
I have a company called T&E Health Pros, and what that is an organization of about 100 personal support workers and home care workers such as nurses and housekeepers that go into the community to help people in their homes stay in their homes. And we also go into organizations and facilities such as the Winfield and to assist them with just a little bit extra care.
Excellent. What about you, Heather?
Thanks for having me. I am the Director of Care at a Chartwell Winfield long-term care home. We have 172 residents that live there. Chartwell has 29 long-term care homes all across Canada.
So it's good that there's some choice for people, right? Which is excellent. Why both of you are on this show. Maybe we could talk a little bit about what the different options are for care. So you said something you can be in home, right? You can stay in your home.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people now are choosing to stay at home, and you know, they're saving in order to have the funds to do that. And the people that do want to stay in their home, they're staying there for many reasons, because they're staying with their families or a spouse maybe that they have to take care of. They don't want to, you know, let that go. Maybe they've got a pet they don't want to let go.
Or just for their own independence, right?
Absolutely.
And then if that's not a possibility, what are some of the other options that families have?
Yeah. Retirement homes, of course, and long-term care homes as well. And sometimes it's a combination of the different disciplines in the community, because your agency, for instance, would go into retirement homes. The retirement and long-term care are very different in many different ways, but those are the two of the options in addition to staying in the community.
Okay, so if you're not in your home, there are other places that you can get some support, right? And then it's for the family to decide whether it's going to be retirement or a longer-term care. Who would make that decision? Is it the families? Or is it a physician at that point?
It really needs to be a family decision, and along with the resident the senior needs to be the one making the decision if possible. It's not always possible depending on various different, how their health is and how their mental health is. But you should always try and have the resident involved. But if not, sometimes it is the families making the decisions.
So where would families start? Do you think, is it normally the family that's coming to a facility or coming to ask for help, or is it the actual senior?
I get both, really.
Okay.
But it is, a lot of times it is the family that starts the process. For us, it is.
Yeah, I think more often it's the families, for sure.
Yeah, and they're looking for, because they may be stressed out, they're trying to cope with the care. And caregiver burnout is, you know, something we really have to watch for, and I'm sure, you see it too.
Absolutely.
And they typically are, but a lot of times it's a senior caregiver as well, caring for a spouse that starts to initiate the calls too. So it's either or, but the family in the most part for me.
Yeah, for the most part, us as well. We also, we see the families reaching out and looking for the different options and investigating that.
So where would those families start? Is there somewhere that, you know, is how you progress? You start making the call here and then you get information and progress, or is it just kind of wherever they find out about it?
Well, a lot of times I think they will start with their doctor, and in some cases the doctors are educated on what is available, and other times they're just not, because they're focused on care. And so, you know, the immediate care that they're focused on, so they don't know the options that are available in the community.
Have the referral system.
Yeah, and so a lot of times there's the CCAC as well, the Community Care Access Centers, where you would start.
Yeah.
Excellent. I was going
Absolutely.
to ask you about that because I did call for clients at one time, and I said, you know, can you just give me some information about where they would start? And they said, well, it had to be the senior that made that call. And I thought, okay, is that still the case? Because I think that was a year or two ago.
Well, because maybe you weren't the family. If you
Okay.
weren't a family or a
Maybe.
power of attorney, maybe you would have, you know, been told that. But from our perspective, we would ask a lot of different questions, as I'm sure you would, to assess what the next step would be.
For sure. And I think the families should be able to call the CCAC and get general information.
Right.
Maybe they may need to have the senior there, or have the CCAC be aware of them having permission to speak to the family to actually initiate the process of looking at the different options more specifically.
Okay, like the
But to
formal
get-
process, but
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
information.
to apply for retirement or long-term
Yeah.
care. But to get information about what the options are, anybody should
Oh,
be
yeah.
able to call
So a
and get the
family could come in and see
information.
either one of you or any facility, any organization, and say, here's kind of what's happening. Can I talk to somebody?
Absolutely.
Sure.
So what would be the person that they would talk to on the other end? Is there somebody specific, or can they just go into a facility without an appointment and kind of say, I need help, where do I go?
We do get phone calls like that, and in our home, they're usually directed to the social worker. We have a social worker
Okay.
and she is our liaison with CCAC to coordinate all of the admissions. And we often have people come in for tours, and that's where they're able to come in and tour, and that's what we encourage people to do as a starting point, and CCAC to encourage them to as well, is to tour the different facilities, whether it be a retirement home or long-term care home, to see what they're like, because they may be very different than what the senior remembers or the family
Yeah,
remembers
for sure.
from years ago.
And a lot of them are a lot nicer. I
Yeah.
tell you, they're a lot
I
nicer than I
want to
pictured
move in.
them.
Are you
Different.
kidding?
I know.
Yeah, if you've got the funding, we can talk about that later, but some of them are like hotels.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Yeah, some of them are, and
Yeah, somebody
tons
does the
of-
cooking for you and the cleaning for you.
Yeah, and you can still have your
And
family
the
over, which is
parties.
big.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes,
and that's still a
absolutely.
Winfield offers awesome
Yeah.
activities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and I
do
think
a lot
that's
of
great
great
for
stuff.
people. So there's places that you guys could help them through the process as well. So even if they were using your services, or you know they found they needed more service, you guys would act as referral systems as well and help these families through the process.
Yeah, for sure. We point them in the right direction. I mean, I'm sure you must deal with that all the time in the community, where they're reaching that point where, you know, most people do want to stay at home in their own home, but when they reach that point to realizing, and it may be your staff that realize they're needing some more help, and maybe need to look at different options, and then could help to steer them in that direction.
Okay.
Oh, we have to do that. That, you know, a lot of times they only have so much funding, and there's only so much public funding,
Right.
and there's only so many private dollars that you can allot to your care at home. And when you get to the point where you can't stay at home, then we have partnerships with, you know, community facilities such as the Winfield that we highly recommend to our clients, and we do that. You know, you get excellent service by going and taking a tour. The whole family take a tour. Go have a meal. Go speak to
Okay.
somebody there. So
And those are all
we work
possibilities.
with that. Absolutely, absolutely.
And you'd mentioned kind of public and private funding, and I think that's important for viewers. There are different options, though, right? There are ways to get some funding for this, because I would imagine there are families that just can't fully support going somewhere that's private.
Well, it's retirement and long-term care are very different when it comes
Okay.
to the funding. Retirement is not funded publicly.
Okay.
Retirement is essentially private. So retirement homes, as far as the cost, can vary widely from one retirement home to another, and it's honestly not cheap. It can
Yeah.
be that can be a barrier for some families as far as
You're paying for
retirement
those
goes.
facilities, right? And
Absolutely.
and that
sure.
level of support.
Yeah. Now, retirement homes also, many of them have assisted living floors, assisted living areas where people may be in that transition in between being more independent and needing more help, but maybe not quite the long-term, the help that they need in long-term care.
So funding does play a role in your
Absolutely.
decisions. All right, after the break, we're going to continue to talk about our age-related care issues. If you'd like to participate in the conversation, connect with us via Facebook or Twitter. See you in a few minutes. Thanks for coming back to We Need to Talk. We're continuing our conversation about family decisions in senior care. So, ladies, it's so important that we empower the seniors, right? And we make them part of that decision making, right? So how do we keep their voice in this process?
It needs to be their voice, first of all. I mean, they have to be involved. It's not making who makes the decisions for the senior, but it needs to be them making the decisions as much as possible. They may not be able to participate in all of the decisions depending on their cognitive ability, and they can get advice on that. The families can get advice on that from their physicians.
Yeah, but they can still participate to their own ability,
Absolutely.
right? And I see a lot of, in my practice, I see a lot of families going, you know, we know what's best for mom and dad.
No.
It's okay. You know, they're not making really good decisions now, so we'll just take it from them. And that's just so unfair, right? And not empowering at all.
No, they need to know what their parents' wishes are. Not what they want for their parent, but what their parents' wishes are. It really needs to focus on them and what they know their parents' wishes are.
And you must see a lot of that in your practice, that the caregiver just want things to progress and to get them help that they maybe forget, or the voice gets lost a little in the...
Well, I think it does, and I think one of the main reasons is because you want the best for them.
Yeah.
And so you're really not trying to take over in a lot of ways, but you're trying to add quality. And, you know, as a daughter or a son, you really do want to make sure that they're happy, safe, healthy, you know, all of that. And so when you're doing that, a lot of times it's not taking over for them, it's really trying to make sure that you're doing the best you can for them.
Yeah, and it's not malicious, right? Like
No.
it's often not
absolutely.
malicious. It's, you know, I know what, I've been doing your care. I've been the caregiver for you, right? I know what you need. I can help get that from somewhere else. But I guess it's just really important to get that perspective of, you know, how does it look for your parent? They may not see it the exact same way.
No, exactly. And I think what a son or daughter thinks is quality of life for the parent may be different from what the parent thinks.
Right.
And you know, absolutely, like you say, not maliciously, of course, but they need to be aware of what the parents' wishes are and not just assume that they know what quality of life means to them, because it may be very different.
Right. And a huge conversation when you get partners or husband and wives that have been living together for, you know, years and years and years, and one of them now needs more care. So either the spouse is being told that they can't continue to care because they need a higher level, or they're going to have to move to a facility.
Oh yeah, and that can cause a lot of friction between them, and it also encompasses issues with the family if one of the partners is talking to a daughter and saying, but I can't care for him anymore, or you know what, he's keeping me up at night and I really need extra care, but I don't want George to go into a home.
Of course, I'll just keep doing it.
Yeah, so don't you worry about me, or maybe you can just come over more. And if you come over and you give us a little bit more time, then maybe we can cope.
For sure, and that's where you start looking for the signs, right? Like as a family member or the spouse, look for the signs of the caregiver burnout, and when they should start looking for what the different options are and exploring those different options.